Great, welcome. So today we're going to do the yoga and meditation class that we often offer at the studio. And so this class is a very simple movement practice, and then we'll leave lots of space at the end to try a meditation technique. And I think sometimes, calling it meditation and yoga is a bit redundant, because when we get it into this sort of frame of a meditative state, then we could actually do a number of things which can be meditation. One of them might be sitting and meditating, but we can also do a meditative practice that's a movement practice. So the movement part is actually still also meditation. So I hope that you can start to incorporate that in right away in all the things that we're doing. We'll start in a comfortable seat. You can sit however you like, using maybe some support if you like, so sitting on a block or a cushion or whatever you have handy. And then just bringing your hands to rest on your knees or in your lap, and close your eyes. And start to draw your attention inwards. And we won't stay for too long in this first experience of sitting, but we can take a little bit of time already to explore and taste how it feels to just settle into a relatively still shape in the body. And feel how the sits bones settle into the earth, whatever it is that you're sitting on. Maybe you're able to tip your weight a little bit more towards the front edge of your sits bones so that we can feel more of the kind of inward curve of the low back. It's a little bit less roundness there. And then we grow the ribs up out of the hips to give that area of the low back more length. Breathing into your chest, to the backs of your ribs, the sides of the waist. And explore the whole three-dimensional space of your body with your breath. And then most importantly, although we're looking for this awake, alert quality in the spine, making sure that your seat is not rigid. Still invite softness into the face, into the shoulders, so that the seat can be comfortable. And if you notice that there's some areas of resistance in your hips or your knees or your spine or anywhere in your body or in your mental space, then this is a good opportunity to simply notice what's there, notice where the blocks are and what we might start to loosen and resolve in our movement practice. And connecting with your breath, you can see exactly the path of the breath as it moves in your nose, in your throat, space of your chest, belly. And then how you empty the breath back out along that same path. You might begin to cultivate your Ujjayi breaths, you're breathing specifically along the back of your throat. And there's perhaps then a little bit of sound to your breathing. Maybe you can attune all of your energy, all of your attention to watching your breath, to feeling your breath as it moves in your body. And this one pointed focus on the breathing is in itself a meditation technique. So if we can make sure that we carry that attention to the breath into whatever it is that we do, then we can stay in this meditative state. And we'll just slowly find our way to all fours. So arriving however you comfortably want to get there, with your knees under your hips and your wrists under your shoulders. And take a moment to carefully place your hands into your mat so the fingers are spread comfortably wide apart. And lean a little bit more weight into the pads of your fingers. And then we'll move through a few rounds of cat and cow. As you're inhaling, you're lengthening the belly, reaching your ribs forward, lifting the sits bones, lifting the chest. And then exhaling to round your back, hugging the belly in, pressing down through the hands and puff up the upper back. And taking a few more rounds, following your own rhythm of breathing. So seeing if you can really let that slow, conscious breath guide each movement. And we can notice really specifically what happens in the body as we transition between these two shapes. So we can see that the spine and the hips are intrinsically connected. And a movement in the spine is in fact also a movement in your hips. So noticing first how your pelvis tilts. So as we're exhaling, the tailbone is curling down, and as we're inhaling, the sits bones are lifting. And that tilt in the pelvis is then the impulse which ripples up the length of the spine towards your skull. And then you can also notice how movement in the spine is in relationship with movement in your shoulders, so that as we move through the upper back, we can also feel an effect in the shoulder joints. And feel how the shoulder blades kind of glide along the back. They get a little bit wider away from the center line as we're exhaling. They might slide gently down the back as we're inhaling and pulling the heart forward. And just see if we can make all of these connections and relationships as smooth as possible. Invite a little loosening of any friction or tension that we encounter in the way that the muscles and the bones glide against each other. Good. With an inhale, you can come back to a neutral spine. And then sitting into child's pose, you might spread your knees a little bit wider. You can bring the tops of the feet to the floor, sitting to your heels, reaching your arms forward, or taking your arms back by your sides and rest your forehead to the floor. We'll just take a few steady breaths here, finding a nice long space in your torso as you're inhaling. Maybe you can kind of reach back a little bit through your hips. And as you're exhaling, seeing if you can settle into the folds of your hip creases and your knee creases. And again, we might notice that there's areas of resistance or tightness which reduce the comfort in this pose. And our job is simply to notice where those areas are and to see if we can just kind of gather that information so that we're able to invite more softness into those areas as we continue through our movement practice. Take one more nice full inhale here. Maybe sighing it out through the mouth as you exhale. See if you can sink a little bit more heavily into the floor. And then we'll slowly walk the hands back towards the shoulders and come back to all fours. From here, taking your right leg back behind you, and tuck your toes under so that we're rooting the ball of the foot into the floor. And a few breaths here, stretching back through the heel, reaching forward through the center of the chest. Just getting a little bit more length in the back of that right leg, maybe feeling especially a stretch in your right calf, but inviting length in general into the whole span of your body from your heel through to the crown of your head. And pressing down firmly through the hands so the shoulder blades stay nice and wide on your back. Good, and then we'll pick up that right leg and step it over to the left on the outside of your mat, rooting the ball of the foot, and then reaching back again through the heel and forward through the center of the chest. From here, as you exhale, you can just look gently over your left side, so we're curling a little bit into the left, finding some length and space in the right. A few steady breaths here, allowing your breath to spread your right side ribs open. And then inhaling to come back to center, reaching that right leg behind you, lifting it now parallel to the floor. As you exhale, just once pull the knee into the chest, rounding the back, really strong push down through your hands. Inhale to reach the right leg straight back behind you. And then exhale to set your right knee down to the floor beside the left, and we'll switch sides. So reaching the left leg back, tucking the toes under, reaching back through your left heel, and sending the center of the chest, the crown of the head forward, so that we lengthen out the whole span of the body from the heel right to the top of the head. And especially feeling and breathing your way into that left calf. See if you can loosen a little bit of the shape of the muscle there. And then we'll pick up that left leg, step it over to the right on the outside of your mat, root the ball of the foot, reach back through the foot, reach forward through the center of the chest, and then curling to the right as you exhale, and finding this long stretch through your left side body. And feeling as you're inhaling the breath moving into the left side waist, the left side ribs. And as you're exhaling, maybe a little bit more of that hug in the low belly, the hug in the right side body. And we'll inhale to come back to center, picking up that left leg, bring it in line with your body, parallel to the floor. As you exhale, hug the knee into the chest, rounding through your back. And inhale to reach the left leg back. And exhale to bring the left knee down to the mat. So again, we're back at all fours. And then from here, we'll tuck the toes under, take the hips up and back, moving into downward dog. And just take a few moments to get comfy in this shape. You can walk the dog if you like, so bending the knees one after the other, or rocking the hips a little bit side to side. It's a fairly comfortable experience of this shape. And inviting some loosening into the joints, the ankles, knees, and hips. And then finding really strong roots down through your hands. See if you can send your hips up high, so we stretch out the center body, especially the area of your low back. Keeping the hips lifting up high, and let your heels settle away from the hips for some space down the backs of your legs. And then slowly walking your feet forward towards your hands. And just arrive at a comfortable forward fold with the knees as bent as you like. Let the head drop down towards the floor. And with an inhale, come about halfway up, hands maybe to your shins if that's helpful. Exhale to empty the belly and sink back down. And head nice and heavy. Inhale, halfway up, reaching your ribs forward. Exhaling to sink back down. And one more time, inhaling halfway up, reaching the ribs forward. And exhaling to soften back down. We'll let ourselves dangle here for a moment. You could bring hands to the opposite elbows if you like. Making sure that there's not too much of a strong tug in the backs of the legs. So keep your knees nice and soft, and just focus more on letting go in the area of the low back, the mid back, the upper back, and then especially the back of the neck. And soften all of the muscles on your face, soften the skin on the face. And with an exhale, you can let the hands settle back towards the floor. And then really, really slowly, we'll inhale to start to roll up to standing, pressing down through the feet, arms and the head dangling really heavily as you come up. And just kind of working your way bone by bone up the spine. As you're coming up, the legs begin to straighten, the tailbone reaches down, the belly draws in, the ribs lift, the shoulders spread wide, crown of the head reaches tall. And just closing your eyes at the top of your mat here. It'll take a few moments to feel this tall stance. Maybe first rocking your weight a little bit side to side or back and forth so you can feel out those four corners of your feet, how each of the edges of the foot connect into the mat to help you balance. And eventually looking for the most centered space so that those four corners of each foot are evenly connected into your mat. And then with that connection through the outer edges of the feet, see if you can find a little bit more lift in the arches of the feet. So we get a sense of both rootedness and buoyancy in the area of the foot. And then you can hug up through the inner line of the thighs, draw in through the low belly, even as you're letting the weight of the hips be soft and heavy. Keeping the ribs lifted, but letting the shoulder blades settle on the back, the heads of the shoulders spread out wide. So in every area of the body, we find connection to the earth and lift away from the earth. And then from here, you can inhale to reach your arms up alongside your ears, nice full stretch. Exhaling to fold forward, bringing your hands towards the floor. And we'll inhale to come halfway up, reaching the ribs forward. Exhaling again to soften back down, nice and heavy. Pressing into the feet, find that same long spine, this time coming all the way up, reaching your arms up to the ceiling, good full stretch, the shoulders stay soft. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And we'll inhale again to reach the arms up nice and tall. Exhaling to fold, bringing your hands towards the floor. Inhale to reach your ribs forward. Exhale, scooping in the belly, folding a little bit more deeply. Again, really let the head hang heavy. Pressing into the feet, long spine. Inhale, sweep the arms all the way back up. Good full stretch. And then exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And again, we'll inhale to reach the arms up, the shoulders relaxed away from your ears. Exhaling to fold, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up, the ribs reaching forward. Exhale to sink back down. Pressing into the feet, inhale all the way up, big tall reach. And then exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And we'll inhale to reach the arms up and keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed. Exhaling to fold, bringing your hands towards the floor. Inhaling to come halfway up, reaching the ribs forward. Exhaling to soften, stepping your right foot back. We'll place the right knee down to the mat. You can fold up your mat or find padding underneath your knee if you like. We'll bring the hands to the top of the left thigh. Just coming up into a nice low lunge here, seeing if you can pull the body away from your left thigh. So you might even use your hands here a little bit to press the torso back. At the same time, really sink the hips nice and low without letting your belly collapse forward. So we find good sense of stretch in the right hip crease. Lift the torso away from your hips and grow a little bit taller. Just keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed. Noticing again where the areas of resistance are, where we might breathe a little bit more carefully or invite our attention simply to be in that area. We can do so much just by noticing how the body is responding to a shape. Sometimes noticing is enough to create all of the change that we need. Good. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands back down to the floor. You can straighten your right leg, press the mat away from you. We're just gonna step easily back to downward dog. And seeing if you can send your hips up nice and high, lengthening out the torso as you inhale. Exhaling to reach your heels away from your hips, lengthening out the backs of your legs. With an inhaling, reach your right leg up and back. And then exhale, pull the knee into the chest, step the right foot towards your hands. You can bring your left knee down to your mat again, finding padding if you need it. Hands to the top of the right thigh. Seeing if you can send your torso away from that right thigh, so you can even use your hands a little bit to guide the torso back. A little bit of lift in the belly so the core is active. And then keep that sense of drawing back and up through your torso even as you sink your hips low so that we can really move into the stretch of the front of the left hip crease. And then being mindful of your breath so that we can use the breath as a tool to unravel or loosen or simply bring awareness or attention to whatever area of the body needs that awareness. And again, sometimes just noticing is enough to initiate really important changes. And perhaps a lot of what goes wrong in our bodies or what's uncomfortable in our bodies is simply because we're not paying enough attention. And as we exhale, we'll bring the hands back to the floor and step the left foot forward to meet the right. And inhale to come halfway up. And exhaling to settle back down. And pressing into the feet, lengthening the spine. Inhale all the way up to standing, reaching up nice and tall. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. Inhaling to reach the arms up. Exhaling to fold, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up, reaching your ribs forward. Exhaling to step your left foot back. Bring the left knee down to the floor again. Find padding if you like it. This time inhaling to sweep your arms up towards the ceiling, stretching into this low lunge. Again, let the hips settle without letting your belly collapse forward. Another big breath in here, maybe a little bit more lift in the ribs. As you exhaling, bring your hands together at the center of your chest. We'll reach the heart forward and then start to turn towards the right. Maybe your left elbow hooks towards the outer right knee. And seeing if you can continue to let the hips soften, grow the ribs up away from your hips or forward away from your hips. If you like, you can stay as you are here. If you want a little bit more challenge, maybe tucking your left toes under and just slowly starting to straighten out that left leg, whatever works for you. And seeing if you can get long in the torso as you inhale, maybe find a little bit more of that turn as you exhale. Good, and then we'll slowly turn back towards center. You can inhale to reach your arms up alongside your ears. Exhaling to bring your hands down to the floor, straightening your left leg if it's not already. We'll take a careful step back to downward dog. Again, finding a nice long spine there, buoyancy in the hips, really lifting up through your hips, and then settling through the heels to lengthen out the backs of the legs. Inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, drawing the knee into the chest, stepping the left foot forward towards your hands. Bringing your right knee down to the mat to begin with. Inhale, arms sweeping up into your low lunge. Letting the shoulders and the hips settle. Drawing the belly away from your left thigh, grow up a little bit taller. Good, we'll exhale the hands to the center of the chest and then turning to the left. Again, maybe your right elbow hooks towards the outer left knee. Seeing if you can grow long through your torso with your inhales. Find a little bit more of that turning as you exhale. And then if you like, finding the variation with the straight back leg. So maybe tucking your right toes under and just slowly straightening out that right leg. Hugging towards your center line to find your balance. So balance too is often a question of paying attention to the right things. Really knowing where your middle is. So inner thighs hug the midline, the belly drawing in. You can keep your gaze fixed to something that's not moving so you have a reference for stillness. Sometimes we fall anyway, that's okay. Then we'll slowly unwind back to center with an inhale, reaching your arms up tall. And then exhaling to bring your hands down to the floor, stepping your right foot forward to meet the left. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhaling to settle back down. Pressing into the feet, inhaling all the way up. Arms reaching nice and tall. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. And we'll inhale to reach the arms up. Again, nice full stretch. Exhaling to fold forward, bringing your hands towards the floor. Inhaling to come halfway up, reach the ribs forward. Exhale, softening down. We're going to step both feet back. So coming into a plank shape here. See if you can spill your weight a little bit farther forward into your hands and feel the core and the arms working to hold you up. And then from here, lowering your way down. So you might bring your knees down first or lower one straight line. You can come all the way onto your belly or just a chaturanga. And then we'll inhale into a cobra or upward dog. So you can find a long space in the front of your hips. Exhaling to take your hips up and back, moving into downward dog. Again, looking for length in your spine, so less roundness in the low back, really seeing if you can kind of feel like maybe you're sticking your butt up a little bit to look for the sensation of an inward scoop in your low back. So that natural curve of the low back. And then maybe we need to bend the knees a little bit to get that sensation. So you can notice the relationship between tightness in the backs of the legs and tightness in the back of your spine. And if you find that to bend the knees in order to get that feeling of a long spine is helpful to you, then do that. Just let your knees be a little bit bent. And as we breathe and stay here, maybe we can look for more lengthening of the legs, but that doesn't mean we have to straighten the legs out completely. Yeah. At the end of your next exhale, you can bend your knees, look forward, and then either step the feet or maybe hop the feet up towards your hands. We'll inhale to come halfway up. Exhale to melt back down. Pressing into the feet, inhale, coming all the way up, arms reaching for the ceiling, nice tall stretch. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And bringing your hands to your hips, lean your weight into your right foot. And we'll pick up the left leg and then take the left knee out to the left and step the left foot to the inside of your right leg, either below or above your knee. And you can use your left hand to bring the foot up a little bit higher if you like. So coming into a tree pose, squaring your hips, which might mean that your left knee comes forward a little bit, and then seeing if you can keep that honest square in your hips and still send that left thigh bone out to the left. And either staying as you are here, or maybe bringing your hands together at your chest, or reaching your arms up towards the ceiling. So just find the tree shape that makes sense for you. Good root down through your right foot, especially through the base of your big toe mound. Hugging the center line here by pushing your left foot and your right leg into each other. A little bit of hug in the belly, more lift in your ribs. And then keeping your gaze steady to something in front of you that's not moving. Good, and then we'll find some softness in the right knee. You can bring that left knee forward. From here, take a big step back. We're gonna land in Warrior Two. So widening across the front of the hips. Right arm forward, left arm back. You can sit the hips nice and low. See if you can roll your right thigh bone a little bit outwards in the hip socket. So the right knee, right toes are pointing straight forward. Maybe some sensation in the outer right hip. Good, and then we'll straighten the right leg. And inhale to reach your right arm as far forward as you're able. Exhale to bring the right arm down, the left arm up for a triangle pose. And we'll just take a few steady breaths here. Sending your hips back and reaching your ribs forward. As we find more of a kind of point at the right hip crease, more length in the right side body. Maybe you're feeling some stretch through the inner line of your right leg or through the back of the right leg. Just noticing where the sensation arises for you, how we can breathe into that sensation in order to soften any hard edges, and just to feel more comfortable with whatever our bodies are able to do at this point in time. And then we'll press down through the feet. Inhale to come all the way back up to standing. Turning your right toes to the left, so all 10 toes pointing in the same direction. You can angle your toes slightly inwards. We'll bring the hands to the hips here. Inhale to lift the center of the chest. And then exhaling to fold forward, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhale to reach your ribs forward. Exhale, scooping the belly in. You can fold a little bit more deeply, bringing the hands flat to the floor if that's available to you. And just finding here a deep forward fold. And breathe up the backs of your legs. Maybe using some activity in the fronts of the legs to help you lengthen out the back. So if we draw the kneecaps up and the fronts of the thighs up towards the hip creases, that engagement might allow us to release a little bit more through the back of the leg. And spreading your sits bones wide, breathe into the wide base of your pelvis. And as you exhale, you can draw the low belly in. Maybe you can reach your ribs down away from your hips, especially taking this opportunity to let go of your head and relaxing through the muscles of the face. Noticing if there's any unconscious effort that's stealing your energy away, something that you're doing that's not helpful that you can now let go of. And then we'll inhale to come back up onto the fingertips, reaching your ribs forward. Exhale to bring your hands to your hips. And inhale, coming all the way up to standing. Turning the right toes forward, bending the right knee, bringing the arms out shoulder height, Warrior Two. Good, we'll inhale here to reverse warrior, sweeping the right arm back. Exhale, windmill the hands to the floor. Stepping back to plank and moving with your own breath through whatever path you like to get to downward dog. So you could go straight there or travel through a vinyasa. And just choose your own adventure. Whatever you're doing, be mindful of each breath and each step that you take. Again, we'll meet in downward dog. And then we'll inhale here to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale, pull the knee into the chest, step the right foot forward towards your hands. Inhaling to come up to a high lunge, so reaching the arms up nice and tall. Let the hips settle. You might find a little bit of bend in your left knee. So again, we can move into the stretch of the front of the left hip crease. So tailbone reaching down, the torso pulling back away from that right thigh. Maybe from there, more length in the right leg without sinking the belly forward. And then we'll shift weight into the right foot. You might tiptoe your left foot in a little closer until you're ready to really stand on that right leg. Bring your hands by your sides, pick your left foot up and reach back with your left hand to find the top of the left foot. We'll parallel the knees, so bring them right in side by side. Reach your tailbone down towards your heels, and then hug that left heel in towards the left hip so that we can find the stretch across the front of the left thigh. And just take a few breaths here. And then releasing that left foot down beside your right foot. And shifting your weight into your left foot, picking up your right knee, bringing the right knee out to the side, and then setting the foot to the inside of the left leg, again for tree pose, either above or below the knee. Once you've found the spot that's good for you, really push the foot and the leg into each other, so we're activating the center line. Hands to your hips, just to make sure the hips are truly square. And then bring that right thigh bone out to the right, out, changing the hips. Hands to the center of the chest if you like, or arms reaching up to the ceiling. And then finding that good strong root down through your left foot, strong reach up through your fingertips. This is a great pose to help us bring awareness to both the core line, which helps us balance, but also to the extremities of the body, to notice how much we can extend down through that left foot, how much we find activity in the tiny muscles of the foot to help us balance. And feel sensation and awareness in all of our fingertips so that we get that growth up through the hands. And then from here, we'll bring the right knee forward, find some softness in your left knee. Again, just a really big step back with the right foot so that we can land in Warrior Two, arms out shoulder height. You can spread wide again across the front of the pelvis. You can scoop your left hip in a little bit under your torso as you roll that left thigh bone just slightly outwards in the hip socket. Sit the hips lower, grow the heart up higher. And then straightening your left leg, inhaling to reach the left arm forward, exhaling, left arm down, right arm up for a triangle pose. Keep sending your hips back, reaching your ribs forward, and lengthening out the sides of the waist. Lengthening out the belly. Notice any part of your body that feels kind of cramped or closed. See if you can invite space somehow into that area. So maybe we feel the fold at the left hip crease. That can be a closing in, but it doesn't have to feel bad. If it feels bad, then maybe we need to think about how we might change the shape or how we might breathe differently or soften so that it feels good, even where there's a fold in the body. And then we'll press into the feet. Inhale to come back up. Exhaling to turn your left toes towards the right, and we'll turn the toes slightly in, heels out. Bringing your hands this time behind your back, interlace the fingers. Inhale to draw up through the center of the chest, and then exhaling to fold. Just letting your torso soften down. Allow your arms to settle away from your back. Just finding a stretch here into the shoulders. Again, taking some attention to your legs so that we're not just kind of hanging out in the shape, but that we're really active with the front side of the leg in order to create more space in the back side of the leg. And the hips are buoyant. They're reaching up away from the mat. As the hips reach up, maybe your ribs can settle down a little bit more deeply. And then are you doing anything with your energy that's not helpful? Are you scrunching up your face? Are you holding in your shoulders in a way that you don't need to be? Are you holding onto some mental piece of information or an idea that's not helpful for you? And see if you can do less where you don't need to be doing. And then be intentional with everything that you are putting your energy into. Good. We'll press the feet down. Inhale to come all the way up. And then exhale, moving back into Warrior Two. Left toes forward, arms out shoulder height. And inhaling here to reverse warrior, the left arm reaching back. Exhale to windmill the hands down to the floor. And pressing the mat away from you, pick up that left foot, step back to plank and find your own path, following your own breath. we'll meet again in downward dog. Nice big breath in here. And seeing if you can find that lengthening in your back. Maybe you need some bend in your knees. And then as you exhale, look for more length in your legs without feeling like you have to completely straighten your legs. And we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, draw the knee into the chest. Step the left foot towards your hands. Inhaling up to your high lunge, arms reaching tall. A moment here just to see if we can get again into the front of the hip crease. Maybe some bend in your right knee to start. Pull the belly back, reach the tailbone down. And then see if you can lengthen out that right leg without tilting the torso forward. Yeah. And now we'll intentionally bring the torso forward to shift weight into the left foot, creeping the right foot in until you're ready to really balance on that right foot. Right hand comes behind you to pick up the right foot. And just let the left hand settle by your side. And then see if you can bring the knees side by side. Reach your tailbone down, hug the belly in, and pull that the right foot in towards the hip so that we can feel the lengthening across the top of the right thigh. And then slowly releasing the right foot back to the floor. Just for a moment again, standing tall on both of your feet, maybe closing your eyes so that you can feel the balance of your weight through both feet. How your feet have so much ability to process sensory information. And by paying attention to the feet, we're able to build a much more strong, stable way of standing in the world. And then with an inhale, we'll reach the arms up, take a nice tall stretch. Exhale, folding forward, bringing your hands towards the floor. Inhaling to come halfway up, reach the ribs forward. Exhale, planting the hands, once more coming back to plank, just one last time finding your own path to downward dog. Paying attention to your breath so that your breath paces each movement. Your movements are never rushed faster than your breathing. And then from downward dog, we'll come into a pigeon pose. An option to do this on your back. If you're not sure how that works, I can show you in a moment. Otherwise, we'll bring the right knee towards the right wrist, shin bone to the floor at an angle that's good for you. Left knee can come down, you can scooch back through that left knee. Sitting your hips evenly towards your mat. So sitting on some support under the right hip if you need it, so that you're really able to rest into this shape. If you feel any strong sensation in your right knee, then the version on the back will likely be better for you. If we're good here, we're reaching the ribs forward, coming down onto the forearms, or maybe settling all the way down onto the forehead. If that shape doesn't work for you, you're just gonna settle onto your back. Left foot plants to the floor, right foot crosses over the left knee, and then we draw the left leg in to find this kind of thread the needle shape. So choosing that variation if you find that the prone variation is too much pressure on your knee or too much effort in the hips. Wherever we've ended up, you can again really bring your whole attention to your breathing so that you can allow your breath to guide you into the space of your body, so that your breath can help you to process the sensations that arise out of this shape. And sometimes this shape can offer us quite intense sensations. So we can really use the breath to soften some of that intensity. We can use the breath to help us know if the intensity is helpful or not. So if we feel like we can breathe really smoothly into whatever it is that we're feeling, then perhaps the effort of stretching the muscles in that way is useful. If we feel like the breath becomes difficult because the intensity of the sensation is so strong, that's usually a sign that the shape is not great for the body and that we should choose something that's more gentle or we should adjust or support ourselves in some way to make the shape more accessible. So really listening to the quality of your breath to know if the shape is good. Good. You can slowly walk your hands back in towards you. If you're on your back on that variation, just switch sides. For everyone else, we'll tuck the left toes under, pick up the hips, carefully stepping back to downward dog. And then just bringing that left knee forward towards your left wrist and finding the shape on the other side. Right knee to the mat and scooch back through the right foot. Make sure the hips are evenly settled. Again, you can really support that left hip with something if you need to. And then from here, lengthening forward through the torso and finding your way either onto your forearms or all the way down onto your forehead. And seeing if you can explore the sensations of this shape using, again, that lens of your breathing. The breath really allows you to see more clearly what it is that you're feeling, where those feelings are coming from. So sometimes what we immediately feel is a tightness that's related to some other tightness in the body that's more subtle or more hidden. And the breath might allow us to see those relationships. So that tightness in your hip might be related to some tightness in your low back. Or sometimes the physical sensation that we feel has a relationship to an emotional seed. And when we take a closer look, we're able to see that connection more clearly. So just giving ourselves space to really look at whatever it is that comes up. And then again, we'll walk the hands back in, tucking the right toes under, carefully picking the hips up. Downward dog. If you're on your back, you can just come to a seated shape. From downward dog, for the rest of us, we'll bring the knees to the mat, cross the ankles, and we're just finding a comfortable seat as you roll back over your feet. So we could arrive again in a cross-legged seat, or if that doesn't work for you, choose something else, and you might sit on a little bit of support. We're just going to do a breathing exercise before we take a moment in Shavasana and then come into a longer meditation. So this is called alternate nostril breathing. It's just a nice way to really bring a clear focus into the breath and to create a sort of slow, steady state in our mental space. We'll keep the left hand to the left knee or down towards your body, and then bring the right hand up, and you can fold your middle to, or your pointer finger and your middle finger in towards your palm. We'll keep the ring finger and the pinky extended and the thumb extended. We're going to use the two fingers to close the left nostril and the thumb to close the right. Just for a moment, take a full breath in through both nostrils and a full breath out. And if you notice if one side is a little bit stuffed up or congested, then you might not close the other side completely. So make sure you're always getting enough breath. From here, we're going to bring the thumb to the right nostril and take a full inhale through the left. And then closing the left, exhale through the right. Inhaling through the right. Close and exhale through the left. Inhaling through the left. Exhaling through the right. Inhaling through the right. Exhaling through the left. Maybe we can go a little bit slower, so deep inhale through the left. Closing the left, exhaling through the right. Inhaling through the right. Close and exhale through the left. And just keep going with your own smooth breath. Inhaling left, exhaling right, inhaling right, exhaling left. So just repeating that pattern as slowly and comfortably as you're able. And the next time that you breathe out through your left nostril, you can let your right hand fall back towards your right knee. And just taking a moment to find breath through both nostrils, but maybe a little bit of an echo of that pattern remains. We feel the breath moving up the left, down the right, and up the right, and down through the left. And just notice how your mind feels, having had that intense focus on your breathing. From here, we're going to settle into Shavasana for a short moment. So you can just find your way onto your back and give ourselves a chance to absorb the effects of that moving and breathing. And take your legs out straight or have your knees bent and the soles of the feet to the floor. Just look for what's really comfortable for you, for your back. Arms by your sides, your palms rolling open. And let go of any effort to control or shape your breathing here. And just let it flow really naturally. And all parts of your body becoming completely soft. And feel the weight of your legs, the weight of your arms, the weight of the hips and the ribs and the head. You find a softness at the pit of your belly. Softness in your throat, in your face. And if your practice dug up some emotional sensation, then find softness in that emotional landscape as well. And just resting here for a handful of really natural, easy breaths. And then from this completely relaxed space, you can just wake yourself up with a little bit of wiggling in your fingers and your toes. Take a nice long stretch by reaching your arms back behind your ears and stretching your toes forward. And we'll bend the knees, roll onto one side, and find your way back to a seat. And again, setting yourself up in a comfortable seat, somewhere that you can stay for a little while, maybe about 10 minutes. We'll sit on supports if you like, a block or a cushion. Maybe crossing your legs completely, or if you feel that your tendency is to have your feet fall asleep, you might just place one foot in front of the other. And then from here, closing your eyes, seeing if you can tilt your hips slightly forward. So again, we feel that sort of natural inward curve of the low spine, not too much roundness. Good lift in the ribs, softening the shoulders. So the spine is once more alert, but also relaxed. There's no rigidity in this shape. And your hands softly on your knees or in your lap. And take a few moments here to make sure that this seat is truly where you want to be. If you need some little fidgets or adjustments to get it exactly perfect, then feel free to take those changes. And then we commit to being where we are, but also if something is intensely uncomfortable along the way or becomes painful even, then we definitely give ourselves permission to move or change in between. So we intend to stay, but we also know that we don't have to hold anything beyond what's reasonable. And seeing if we can maintain this really natural rhythm in our breathing, but bring our attention back to the breath. So we'll use the breath as a guide without needing to create any kind of specific sort of breathing or any special breathing technique. And just watching the flow of the breath as it travels in and out of your body. And seeing if we can find that same sort of soft, permissive quality in the breath. So we perhaps notice its pace, and by noticing, maybe the breath gets a little bit slower. But we don't need to actively slow down the breath. We don't need to do anything to shape the breath. And just let it be the way that it wants to be. And then we'll just attach little words or phrases to the breaths and see if we can repeat them as kind of mantras for a few cycles of breathing. So that again, the breath is sort of our guide, but we're not actually doing a special breathing technique. So you can start on your inhales to say to yourself, I am aware of my in-breath. And the exhales, I am aware of my out-breath. I'm aware of my in-breath. I am aware of my out-breath. And just keep repeating that in your head as you watch each breath move in and out. On your next inhale, you can start to say to yourself, I follow my breath from beginning to end. The exhale, I follow my breath from beginning to end. Inhaling, I follow my breath from beginning to end. Exhaling, I follow my breath from beginning to end. Now inhaling, my breath is deep. Exhaling, my breath is slow. Inhaling, my breath is deep. Exhaling, my breath is slow. Deep. Slow. Inhaling, I am expansive. Exhaling, I am rooted. Inhaling, I am expansive. Exhaling, I am rooted. Expansive. Rooted. And finally, smiling, I breathe in. Relaxing, I breathe out. Smiling, I breathe in. Relaxing, I breathe out. Smiling, relaxing. Letting go of any words or images or attachments to your breath, you can simply let the breath flow in and out. You can see for a few moments if you can remain at its center. Bringing your hands together at the center of your chest, and thank yourself for your practice. Namaste. Great. Thanks for joining us. Hope we'll see you soon.